Well, good morning and welcome to the Draft Professor. This is the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, joined by Brian Maffey, Drew Collins, Jack Brentnell, and we're going to be diving into some defensive line prospects shortly. Drew, it seems like just yesterday you and I were podcasting on defensive line. Welcome back to Sunday.
Yeah, it's almost like it was. Once the offensive line yesterday, today get a flip back the sides and talk about some defensive linemen.
Yeah. And Brian, how are things all the way out on the left coast?
Still dark out right now, so days is starting.
Yeah, and Jack, you're joining us from the UK, so for you this is early afternoon, right?
It is. It's light here rather than where Brian is, but it is wet and grey and horrible. So typical English weather.
Typical English, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we are going to go over some defensive linemen. And the defensive linemen that we are going to discuss today are Christen Miller from Georgia, Will Heldt from Clemson, Zion Young from Missouri, Anthony Lucas from USC, Quintayvious Hutchins from Boston College, Gabe Jacas from Illinois, Tyreak Sapp from Florida, and R. Mason Thomas from Oklahoma. Brian, what do you have on Christen Miller from Georgia?
Yeah, let's see. Sorry, I was still kind of organizing my notes. Kind of had a feeling you were going to go to me first, but it's fine. So he's listed at 6'4", 310. Looks probably around there. He's well built. He's got a thick body with muscular calves. This year was actually his first year as a starter. Kind of a highly rated prospect guy who had just took kind of time to get going, but he's got a pretty athletic build. Almost like an edge rusher build in a way, kind of like just kind of thinner lower body, but he's got pretty good length, at least on film. Looks around like 33 inches ish range. He's got decent explosiveness, nothing special, but he's got really good closing speed, where I think he can make a big impact as a pass rusher, even though he hasn't made a huge impact yet. He moves pretty well. He looks really quick on stunts, and as in the looper. He looks to have some bend with his ankles too, which is pretty good, which is pretty surprising for his size too. Quick hands, does a pretty good job of staying square in line of scrimmage. It gets a good extension with his arms too, which engaging with blockers. And they've even used him pretty much anywhere from 0 tech to 4-eye, so he can move around the defensive line. As far as a pass rusher, he's used a stutter step club and a stutter step swim. His club could become, I think his club is pretty decent. I think if he combined it with a rip or a swim, it could improve it. He's got a good, he's with his pass rush game, he gets a good start, but like he kind of gets bogged down sometimes a little bit. But it crosses face with ease. He can stack and shed, but he can be a bit inconsistent with it, especially in the run game. His hands are pretty strong though, but they're kind of all over the place. At least in a good way and a bad way. They're kind of all over where he continues to work at least, but his accuracy and timing and stuff is a bit off. Pad level will get a little bit high at times, especially in the run game again, where he'll lose leverage and stuff. Interesting weird thing about him is, at least as a pass rusher, when he's trying to get field, a lot of times he'll use like finesse type moves. He doesn't really go with power moves, which is kind of surprising. I think that could really improve his game a lot if he's incorporating some power moves. But the efforts there, of course, he'll chase plays, and then, but again, like I said, he needs to incorporate some power moves. He does a good job maintaining his gap. He'll even use some half mana stuff to try and find the ball. I think this has been known for a long time, but at least the way Georgia's defense scheme is, it kind of really hurts their defensive linemen as far as getting to the quarterback, because they're asking more to two gap, to read and react and stuff like that instead of attack. So a lot of times their sack numbers are pretty low. So at least like the people who like box score scout will look at him like, oh, this guy only had like 2 sacks this year, so he's not a very good pass rusher, when it's not really true. It's just more of their scheme. But he does show flashes of being physical. And I think he has a lot of upside. But even though him being a junior, I think he probably ends up going back to school and probably could use another year of development.
Drew, what do you think of Christen Miller from Georgia?
Yeah, I really like what Brian said, and honestly, I have a pretty similar evaluation for him. I really like his frame and size, 6'4", 310, and he's got really good quickness and explosiveness for that side. Brian mentioned his pursuit. He can do really well at that. I think he's got a good first step. So I like what I see there. I think he's extremely versatile. I wouldn't have a problem playing him at multiple different spots along the line and trying to get him the best matchup. And then his strength is just impressive. He will go full contact at the point of attack. He doesn't shy away from anything, and he can move people, especially in the run game. He's has the potential to be a dominant player. But as you said, his pass rush is still very questionable. I do see a lot of upside in it, but he just hasn't been able to put it all together yet. So I do think another year or some development with some NFL coaches is needed. But I do see a lot of good stuff in Christian Miller. Double teams are another issue that I saw. He just can't separate and can kind of get pushed off the line with that. You don't want to even see him win those as long as just stay your ground, which he kind of can struggle to. But I do like Christian Miller. I think he's a day two prospect right now. I do think, as Brian said, he could benefit from going back to college, developing one more year, then coming into the draft next year. But I do like a lot of the tools that you see with him.
And Jack, Christen Miller, where do you sit?
Yeah, pretty similar to both Drew and Brian. I think they've touched on a lot of the points I had in my notes. Brian mentioned the club and the swim. Those really stood out on tape to me. There's definite power, but yeah, that was another of my points, was that you just don't see the bull rush for someone who actually does flash power. And you'd like to see him win kind of in a few more different ways. He's very finesse based at the moment. You see, I think certainly in the Tennessee game, there were some really nice quick wins where he crosses face and gets straight in the backfield. But you just want to see a little bit more variety from him in how he wins. The double teams point, again, that's something I'd spotted. I think a lot of it just comes from that inability to really anticipate them. So you'll see him kind of take on that first block, but then the second blocker will kind of hit him on his ribs and he'll go flying. It feels like a kind of prototypical three tech to me. I think the biggest issue right now is that he is more of a disruptor than a producer. There are a few too many missed tackles for me in the backfield, but the traits are there. Like, he's a really easy mover. The point Brian made around stunts, like some of the reps as a looper are really, really impressive in terms of the flexibility he's got. So he feels like a guy I'd be willing to take kind of early day to, but could see him going back to school given kind of what have been fairly limited reps throughout his career at Georgia.
Okay. Will Heldt, Drew, what do you think of the other Clemson edge?
The first thing that jumps off the page for me for Will Heldt is that Dabo Swinney went into the portal for him. That is such a rare thing that it instantly tells me a lot about him, that they really like him. And I saw a lot of good things when I was watching him. You see his size, 6'6", and he's got very long arms. He uses those. It's tough for an offensive lineman to reach his chest, which can help make up for his lack of power. He's great in pursuit, uses his long strides to eat up distance between him and the quarterback. He's got very active hands. He can be used in stunts really well. He's constantly looking to displace an offensive lineman's arms. They're very active, and he's constantly looking to swipe them away or something like that. He's got excellent speed, excellent change of direction. He's got a good first step. I wouldn't say it's elite. I wasn't that impressed by his first step, but it's good. And he's got a very solid spin move. Against Duke, he used it 3 times, and 2 of them were clean wins. So I really like how he implements that. I would like to see him get stronger. Tight ends can eliminate him from plays, which results in him not being a great asset against the run. If he doesn't split a gap, he's likely not going to make an impact on it. And then also, I would like to see him have a little bit more consistent presence in pass rush playing, especially since he's opposite of TJ Parker and Peter Woods. So Heldt's not going to draw a lot of the double teams. So I'd like to see him be a little bit more impactful, but I really like a lot of what I see from Will Heldt. He's not being talked about enough because Clemson is, 1, having a bad season, and 2, has at least 3 other names who are bigger than him on defense. But Heldt's I think he's gonna be a riser. once the pre-draft process gets started. If he goes to the Senior Bowl, goes to the Shrine Bowl, I think he'll be someone who can shine.
Jack, Will Heldt, what did you see?
Yeah, I liked his tape. I thought Drew mentioned the motor. That was the thing that stood out to me the most. Like the effort, the hustle, the tenacity, they all kind of jump off the tape instantly. He is, I think, agree with Drew on the explosiveness. I think it's good. It's definitely not elite. I thought he had a nice long arm move, and you did see him kind of collapse the pocket there. So I think there's enough in terms of speed to power as a pass rusher. The frame is good, and you can see how that'll kind of lend itself well to the NFL, especially in terms of kind of proportional length. Active hands, you do see him try and win in a kind of number of different ways, which I really liked. I think there's a little stiffness that you see when he's trying to win the outside track. I didn't feel the bend was great. It wasn't like terrible stiffness, but a little more than you'd like. I think the other thing for me that I want to see him clean up is, although there's a lot of variety in how he tries to win, the rush moves do feel a little bit pre-planned. And there were too many reps where you'd kind of see him swiping and there'd be nothing to swipe at, or he'd be kind of waiting to do something. And you want to see a guy who's a bit more reactive to what the offensive tackle's doing. I think the moves are there. I think it's probably just a case of having a bit more playing time and a bit more experience. So I'm interested to see whether he declares. I don't know whether he will. I think, if I'm right, I think he's a true junior. So I think he's probably a back-to-school guy, which, if TJ Parker declares, will be interesting as well, because he then might be the kind of the guy on that defensive line next year. So an interesting player, but I think one I would expect to probably go back.
And Brian, Will Heldt, what did you see?
Yeah, I watched both his Purdue film and his Clemson. I kind of like how they use him at Purdue, but although they had him kind of stand up sometimes and even dropping coverage, so I'm pretty sure he's not going to be doing the NFL. But it's still pretty interesting seeing him being able to move in space. But yeah, so he has a pretty well built frame. He's got filled out, good length. I've seen on film. He actually showed a decent spin move. He uses stab that he'll string with the spin. He'll string with the spin. He uses his length though. He's got his explosive on snap is okay, but his size and strength does show up on film, especially in the run game. He's physical. He'll hold up at the point of attack. I saw him use an outside fake. He's got some okay closing speed, not great. It's nothing that stands out, but he can set the edge. He keeps working, doesn't give up, which you like, of course. The play to the whistle. It loses length to shed blocks. At Purdue, they had him stand up most of the time, which I don't think is going to be what he's going to do in the NFL. I think he's more of a hand in the dirt type guy, 4-3 guy. But it's changed direction, kind of like some of what Jack was saying. It's changed a lot, and I think Drew mentioned it too. His change direction is kind of okay. It's a little stiff on film. Not super stiff, but there's some stiffness you see there at times. You can use on stunts. He gets a little too aggressive sometimes when working up the field and leaves his gap open, and runners just run past him basically. But he can work down the line as a backside defender and alter the back's pass or take down the back. He'll try to bull rush, but effectiveness is kind of but he was like I mentioned earlier, he was asked a short drop at Purdue, and he looked okay doing it, but I don't think he's going to be doing the NFL. He'll get pushed out of play sometimes when he's not square the line. I saw a few times he got pushed around by tight end. But kind of like what Jack said, he'll use his pass moves too soon. His timing is off. He'll throw a move and there's nothing there. The blocker, there's a couple yards of space where there's just nothing there. But he can play some half man. There's a few times when he gets a decent jump when he times up the snap, but he'll a little hand fight a little bit too much with the blockers. He needs to do a better job of disengaging. And similar to Jack, I think he's going to go back to school. I think he needs another year just to work on his moves, better improve his timing and stuff like that.
And the way I'm listening, I think all of you have a draftable day 3 grade now, but likely return to school.
Yeah.
I think if he came out early, if it came out, I think probably early day 3 grade, but yeah, I think he just returned to school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jack, Zion Young from Missouri. What did you think?
Yeah, I liked his take quite a lot. So I think he feels like a very safe is maybe a bit brave, but he feels like a pretty safe prospect. I think he's 6'5", 262, so he's got that kind of NFL ready frame. You see the power that you would want for a guy with that build on tape. Like, he has the kind of pop on contact to move guys both in the run game and as a pass rusher. His bull rush is good. You do see him kind of collapse the pocket that way, which I think with the way the NFL is trending, I'm always looking for guys who can win with power, because I think finesse it's fine, but I don't think it can be your go-to. I think he's a good run defender. I think you see him stack and shed well. He can control blocks, and the effort and physicality is great. He's another guy like Heldt, where the motor is, I think, really good. The downsides, I think he's a little limited in terms of kind of juice and burst off the snap. You do see some pad level issues. I don't know if he is actually 6'5" on the dot. I've not got verified measurables, but you do feel he plays a little tall at times, and he's kind of a bit upright out of his stance. He's another guy, again, like Heldt, where I don't think the ankle flexion is great. He's never a guy who's going to trade off his ability to, win with a ghost move and flatten around the arc and win that way. And that's fine. Like, if you're 262, that doesn't need to be your go-to, but it does mean he's maybe a little bit reliant on that bull rush at the moment, which, while it's good, I think he's a little slow to find hand counters if that first move fails. And there'll be a few too many reps where you'll see him kind of get some initial knockback, and then if the tackle can anchor, he's not really able to quickly disengage and then find an alternative. So I think there's a little bit of room for technical refinement if he's going to hit his ceiling, certainly as a pass rusher. But I think with the play strength and the run defense, you've got a pretty high floor, power edge rusher on your hands.
And Jack, how high do you have Zion Young graded?
He is currently my edge 11 with a kind of, that's probably a late day 2 grade, like late third.
Okay. Brian, where are you on Zion Young right now?
Yeah, I similar to Jack. I think I like him a little bit better, but in that range, I guess you could say. So actually I have verified measurements on him: 6'5" and 1/8", 255, 33-inch arms, and 9 5/8-inch hands. So just a couple quick things on his background, though. He did transfer over from Michigan State a couple years ago. One thing that's going to have to be monitored by NFL, at least NFL probably looked into, but as far as we don't know. But he was suspended 4 games in 2022 after he swung a helmet at a Michigan player. So there's no incident since then. So obviously that's a good thing, but I think that's something that's going to be on his profile that teams are going to be want to check into. But after that, as far as the film, he's got a large wingspan. He's basically been a starter since last year. He pretty much was almost a full-time starter in 2023. So he's big, like I said, big, long arms. Uses his long arms in the run game. The time Missouri's even lined him up as like a 5-tech. He's got a muscular lower body with a lot of power in it. He's explosive off the snap. He's got pretty good closing speed. Good overall. Like, his long speed is good, not great. Probably for his size, it's like average, slightly above average. But he can run the arc a little bit. Has a little bit of bend, but not really a lot. Kind of like what Jack said. He uses speed to power. He has a little pop. He has some pop in his hands when he gets in contact with the blockers. I liked his chop move, but just the timing of it's off. So I think he needs to improve that. His strike accuracy as a rusher can be a little inconsistent at times. But he's shown the ability to stack and shed, but he'll get stuck on the blocker too long. So he needs to speed it up a little bit on that. But he does have a nice stab and rip move that he uses, but sometimes he uses an outside fake too, which shows some potential. His effort on down the field plays is kind of iffy. If plays like going down the field or kind of far away from him, it seems like he kind of slows up a little bit sometimes. But he has a nice bull rush. Can really get blockers on their skates, sliding them back. Can really when he gets them in the backfield, he can really has a close in on the quarterback or the running back. He has pretty good closing speed. So he's the type of player you can't leave him on block. He'll kind of blow in there and just blow up the play. But he can use with his hands, and doesn't get into stalemates too often. But like I said, he kind of gets stuck a little bit too long, but he doesn't get stalemated very often. It looks quick and explosive on TE stunts. He definitely has a cross face. He'll do inside, and then he uses a juke move and even throw in a shoulder and head fake, which is pretty nice. You don't see a super lot of college guys doing that. He's flashed a nice swim move, but you like to see him use it more. Good leverage off the snap. When his speed to power is pretty good, you like to see him also incorporate some more counters and string moves with that. But he does need to improve his block deconstruction. He's a little more consistent with that. But yeah, kind of like Jack, I have a day 2, late mid-ish day 2 grade on him. You're muted.
You're muted,
Jim.
yeah.
Yeah, it gave me a message that I was muted as soon as I started talking. So, Drew, are you going to take that late day 2 and raise it a little bit?
Oh, I think more than a little bit. I'll be honest, Zion Young is one of my guys. I absolutely love what I see. I've had him on a podcast before, and I've fully praised him. What I say first is, a guy is good when a student at the University of Kansas is praising someone from Missouri. That almost never happens. But Zion Young is that player for me. From a production standpoint, he's got a pretty good production this year. 5 sacks, 9.5 tackles for loss so far. He's got prototypical size. He is powerful. I mean, he hits like a truck. He's got bad intentions when he's going to a ball carrier. He doesn't want to just hit them. He wants to lay them out. I really liked his hand usage. It's excellent. He converts speed to power well. He's got a very high motor. I think he's got a full toolbox of pass rush moves that, from what I saw, that I really liked. And consistently, when tight ends are not going to be able to block him in the run game, he's shown that multiple times where he can just throw them away. He's extremely disruptive. Even if he doesn't make the play, he frequently blows it up by being in the backfield and forces a running back to take a different lane. He's fast enough to pressure a quarterback. I wouldn't say he's got insane speed or anything like that. He's able to win with a bull rush, able to win around the edge, able to win with moves. As I said, around the edge is it's kind of not consistent. I don't love his bench. That's the one of the biggest things about him. But being able to win in 3 different ways for me is so big for an edge rusher. And I see that with Zion Young. He's got a good, not great first step. That's one of the things. I didn't think that was anything stellar. Then also, he is a very streaky player for me. There'll be a drive where he's constantly in the backfield and he's making plays he's making plays every single play, like every single down, and he just blows up a drive. And then you go a couple series in the future and he's just not there. He's kind of being taken out of the play and just struggling to get anything going. So you'd like to see him improve his consistency. But I've got a round 1 grade on him. Right now, he's my edge 2. I am extremely high on Zion Young. I love what I see, and I think he'll translate really well to the NFL.
So, Drew, we haven't covered Keldrick Falk yet, but what do you like about Young that you would have him over Keldrick Falk?
I haven't watched a ton of Keldrick Falk yet, but I just love, from what I have seen from Falk and from Zion Young, is I just love how he can win in different ways for Zion Young. Keldrick Falk's outstanding against the run, big, strong, pretty similar in that way. He might be a little bit better against the run, but I just really like what I see from Zion Young in that way, where he can win in so many different ways, and he's shown that he can be a dominant presence.
Okay. Anybody else want to ask Drew any questions on like comparing edge to edge?
I'll stand my ground on Zion Young.
I like this. It's always good when you've got like a flag plant. Like I feel like I was going with Darrell Jackson last week, so I like it. It's always good when people have got different opinions.
Yep.
I might have to go revisit the tape now.
Should.
Okay. So The next player, Anthony Lucas from USC. Jack, what did you see from Anthony Lucas?
Yeah, so I found him really interesting because I watched him maybe a month ago, and then before this I thought I'll just refresh with the last couple of weeks and kind of see. And I actually watched the Northwestern game this morning as well. If you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago after that first watch, I would have been much higher on him because I'd watched 2 games. One of them was definitely the Michigan State game, and that got me really excited. And then I think I'm realizing as I go that Michigan State offensive line is just not good, and everybody looks quite good against them.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think I've cooled a bit on him, but I think he's an interesting prospect. So, yeah, you can see that like the size is pretty crazy. I've got verified measurables for him. He's 6'5" and a quarter, 279 pounds, 33 and 3/8 inch arms, and then a massive 84 and a quarter inch wingspan, which is like huge, even by NFL athlete standards. Like the frame is obviously really impressive. He's got big hands, plenty of power. You did see flashes in the Northwestern game on Friday where you could see him use that length against Caleb Tiernan, who doesn't have the longest arms, and you could see him kind of work the power. So there were some nice flashes there. And I think his hands are active, good arsenal of moves. You see him try and win in different ways. Some are less effective than others. He does try a spin, which I've seen like nice flashes, and then I've seen it end with him on the ground. He's fluid for his size, though. Like you'd think a guy who's like, nearly 280 would be maybe just a bit stiff, kind of pure power, but he's pretty fluid. And kind of the motor is impressive. The things that give me a little pause for thought is like you really don't see much of him as a finisher. He's got 3 career sacks, and after this rewatch, I was like, right, I'm going to go back and find them and watch them. I seem to think 2 of them came on stunts where he was like completely unblocked, or if he wasn't unblocked, they were easy pressures. I think they were both against Georgia Southern as well, if I remember rightly, which that might be saying something. And then the other one, I think kind of was a second effort win. There's not been a single sack on tape where I've been going like, oh wow, that's like an amazing play. He also doesn't really use power as much as you'd think a guy that size does. Like I say, there were flashes against Northwestern, but I haven't seen it kind of be as much of a core part of his game as I'd hoped. The one thing that kind of really bugs me at the moment, which is definitely fixable, is you see a lot of false steps out of his stance. I think he's got pretty decent natural explosiveness for his size. But the amount of times where you'll see him kind of lift his front foot and then replant and then go, it kind of hinders that ability to consistently threaten kind of with speed. When he does actually use kind of the correct technique, you do see some nice flashes there. So I think he's got it in him. It's just coaching him up. And then there was, I don't know exactly what the injury was, but I know he had ankle surgery that ended his season in 2024. So there will be a bit of a medical kind of question there. So to me, he is kind of a toolsy developmental guy. He is currently, where do I have him ranked? He is my edge 14 with a kind of 4th round grade. And I think that's being lifted by the traits because I think there's something to tap into there, but you do want to see more from him.
So, Jack, you have a question in the chat. Do you agree with Anthony's assessment?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The flashes are really impressive, but it is that inconsistency, and you do see those plays where he is just a non-factor, and he gets washed out more than a guy at 280 should. Like I say, that if you want to look at it positively and charitably, you would say, well, the tools are there and the flashes are there. With some good coaching, can he get there? But I think that's just the kind of profile that I struggle to really buy into, certainly in the first kind of 2 to 3 rounds.
Okay. Brian, Anthony Lucas, he's just around the corner from you, right?
Like an hour away, hour and a half away, something like that, depending on traffic and what time of day it is. Yeah, pretty much. maybe 2 hours if it's really bad traffic. But yeah, so for Lucas, just couple quick background things I got on him. Jack already mentioned the verified measurables. He transferred actually from Texas A&M, so obviously he had basically no career sacks coming into this year. Not joking, but he's been at USC since 2024. But that's still something that kind of scares me a little bit, that he had coming to this year, he had 0 career sacks, and like Jack said, 2 were against Georgia Southern, and 1 was last week against Nebraska. So it's kind of worries you a bit. Got basically no production. And also he had missed some time, like Jack mentioned, due to injury. He had the ankle thing, like Jack said last year, but then at Texas A&M, he missed some time with injuries. So that's something I think needs to be checked into, at least medically. But as far as the film, like was said, he's 279, but like it's weird because on film he looks really thin. Like if you just watched his film, you'd be like, oh, this guy looks like he's like maybe 240. So that's like just watch. That's a note I even have. He looks like he's like 240. So it's weird that he's that thin. But and then also the way USC uses him is kind of weird too. They line him up like so far out of the tackle box. He lines up almost like an outside linebacker. I jokingly called they line him up at a 10 points, not 10 point stance, like the 10 gap.
It's not even a wide 9 anymore, huh?
Yeah, instead of the wide 9 of the Eagles, uses like a wide 10. But his length does show up on film. He's got good length, good acceleration and speed for his size. Like I think Jack mentioned, he moves pretty well for a guy that's almost 280. He'll use a bull rush. He has some again for his size. He has some pretty impressive bend for a guy that's almost 280. It's nothing like special. It's not like Clay Matthews bend or anything like that, but at least for his size, it's pretty impressive. He does have a nice dip and rip, I noticed on film, but he doesn't use it very much. He'll set a good base in the run game, and then when he's engaging with the blockers. And I noticed a weird thing he does off the snap is, as far as a pass rusher, he'll almost like engage with the offensive tackle like it's like he's trying to stop the run, like he's trying to run play, and then he'll start doing those pass rush moves. And I thought, I was like, I had to go back and rewatch some of the games and watch his teammates, because I was thinking, okay, is this something the USC is asking him to do? And his teammates weren't doing that. So I think that's something he's doing on his own for some reason. I'm not sure why, unless they're asking him to do that, but not the end on the other side, which kind of wouldn't make sense. So I think it's something weird that he's doing. He needs to change up with his pass rush game. Instead of start getting into his pass rush moves sooner. But he does hold up pretty well in the run game, despite he does come up with a high pad level sometimes. Doesn't get so much movement in the run game, but he'll hold up his end. And he does, I noticed kind of like what Jack said, Michigan State game, he played well, but when he's played better competition, he's really struggled getting off blocks. He could turn his hips and run pretty well. The USC did ask him to zone drop a few times and looked pretty okay. Most of the time when he's rushing the passer, he does try to rush up the arc a little too much instead of using inside moves and power moves and stuff like that. I didn't feel like I liked his power moves. His hands need a lot of work. His accuracy and hand strength were kind of okay to me, at least for a guy his size. But I've noticed he's pretty strong. At least when he's engaging with tight ends, he's pretty strong. He'll just chuck them. But when he gets into offensive tackles, he has some trouble. His vision for the ball sometimes is a bit off. He'll lose the ball in fakes and sometimes and RPOs and stuff. I've seen him a few times just like an RPO fake. The quarterback will take the ball and he'll just kind of really smack the running back, and the quarterback takes off for 10 yards on the other way because he just completely loses the track of the ball. But he has some pop in his pads. And when he's able to build up some steam, actually in a couple, like going back to the Michigan State game, he popped Aiden Childs a couple times because he'll build some steam and pop them up pretty good. She shows a spin, again, a little bit like Jack said, it's kind of hit and miss. But he does look good as a stand-up A-gap blitzer. I saw him use him as a couple times on that. Kind of like, again, back to Jack. Jack will know this when the Packers use Zadarius Smith doing that. A couple times I saw him use a zip blitzer, sorry. It looked pretty good doing that. but the majority of his pass rushes go around the arc. He doesn't show much counters or fakes. Doesn't really cross face or attack inside. Not a good finisher. Misses or is late getting to sacks. I have him as a mid to late day 3 developmental type pick.
And Drew, where are you on Anthony Lucas from USC?
I mean, I have extremely similar thoughts. With Lucas, you're betting on traits, you're betting on glimpses from what you've seen. You really can't get much better size than 6'5", 285. He doesn't look it entirely as you've kind of been saying, but he still got it. And I don't think he's as strong as his frame indicates. Like just against the run and all that, you'd expect someone 285 to be able to dominate and just kind of throw people off, which he really can't consistently. Arms are really, really long. Glimpses of a good pass rush plan. Spin move, we talked about it. I liked his hand usage, but there's just a lot of unknowns about Lucas. His production hasn't been great, and he's not consistent enough. So you need to see that grow. Just accidentally exited my notes, so I got to pull that up quick again. But yeah, I'm in a pretty similar ballpark. I'm in a day 3 developmental, but it's interesting because when I think the grade a lot of analysts will have on him will be very different than where he gets drafted, because we're all saying developmental, like he needs a lot of development, which he does, but a team is going to see 6'5" to 85. They're going to see some of the glimpses, and a defensive line coach is going to say that we can develop that. Like, I see something in him, and then they can develop. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go far earlier than what we have graded. I wouldn't be surprised to see him sneak up into day 2, even though none of us see him that way.
Okay, I like that. And then Anthony in the chat had a really good comment here. He was a swimmer in high school, so that definitely explains to me how somebody could have a whole lot of weight. So my best friend in high school was a swimmer, and I had a little bit of a gut, and he weighed the same amount as me, and he had no gut just because swimmers have a lot of lean muscle. So I definitely can understand that. So the next player, Brian, do you want to kick off Quintayvious Hutchins from Boston College?
Yeah. So this year is his first year as a full-time starter. He had a few starts last year, but it was only a few, like 3 or 4, something like that. But he's listed at 6'3", 240. So he's obviously a smaller edge rusher. He doesn't look very big. He looks almost kind of like a safety sometimes, like a big safety at least. His upper body looks kind of small. Like at least he could add weight. So I think he could probably get himself up to 250, 255 maybe, probably 250. But his explosiveness looks like probably a little above average, I would say. His length looks pretty good though, really good for his size. He might even be in the 33 to 34 inch range. I mean, if he measured 34, I wouldn't be surprised. He's a willing run defender and will take on blockers. They mostly have him as in a stand-up 2-point stance. I don't think he'll ever really be a 4-3 edge. Probably more in a 3-4 outside linebacker type position. His feet are pretty quick, but his change of direction was just kind of okay. It was kind of meh. I've seen pullers will kind of shove him around. He's got some wasted motion coming off the snap. He'll drop his foot, his back foot before coming off the snap. He'll try and run through a blocker, bull rush them, but it doesn't get much push with that. He will try a long arm. It didn't get much push on that either. He tried an outside fake, but it needs some work. Tackles really didn't fall for that. But he's got an okay cross chop. He's willing to put his head into a blocker's chest and just try and drive them back. He's got good long speed. He's got kind of a late acceleration where if he's chasing a play down, he'll kind of pick up speed as he goes. His grip is pretty good if he times it right. That can be a little inconsistent at times. Again, he's got a dip that he tries, and it could be pretty good, but his spacing and timing is off. He does it a little too soon. He used a solid club against Michigan State. I think I'd like to see him do it more. Not much of a hitter, though, but he'll occasionally make plays in the backfield as a run defender. He uses hesitation with a stutter. He's shown a couple flashes of being able to chain some moves together, like a swipe and a stab. But his pass rush moves need a lot of refinements. He does continue to work and try and get free. At least like he gives effort, he works at it. But again, it can be inconsistent in the run game. He doesn't really get much movement in the run game. Sometimes he'll even get stuck on tight ends. He does. I've noticed he'll get snatch trapped a lot of times off the tackles. They'll put him on the ground. Not much of a finisher. I think his fit will be very team specific. Like I said, probably like a 3-4 type scheme. I think is a kind of like somewhat different play style, obviously body style, but somewhat similar to Anthony Lucas. I see him as a developmental late day 3 pick.
Drew, what do you have in Quintayvious Hutchins?
I'm in the same ballpark. He'll be a niche player that some team will buy into, but there are a lot of questions about him. His statistically, it's not an amazing season. I believe he's only got 2 sacks. He might have added another one since I've last checked, but his frame is going to be the first thing that pops off to you. 6'3", 240, just a very small frame for an edge rusher, and that'll take him off a lot of teams' boards, just like that. But he is explosive. I saw a lot of juice out of him. I liked his first step. Brian mentioned his acceleration. He could start off a little bit faster, but he can build up to that top speed. He's got good bend around the edge. I like the flexibility that I saw from him to be able to win at the outside shoulder. And the one nice thing about being small, 6'3", is that he does have that natural leverage built in. So despite him not being the strongest player ever, you can still see him getting some push as a pass rusher when he tries to bull rush from time to time. I don't think that push is amazing, but he's still got that natural leverage that allows him to stay his ground. But Brian went over it. The run game is just kind of questionable for me. I said this, Will Heldt and him are different conversations, but kind of the same thing is where if he doesn't split a gap or win something like that, he's likely not making a play. Tight ends can take him out of the game. Offensive linemen can dominate him away. So that's the biggest mark with him. And for me, that pushes him down to another probably later day 3 pick, especially since he's not technically refined yet. I do like some of the traits he brings, but he just needs more development and maybe get a little bit stronger.
And Jack, Quintayvious Hutchins from Boston College.
Yeah, I think we're all fairly well aligned on him, I think. He's a player who I enjoyed watching more than like my eventual grade might say. Like I thought his tape was really quite fun, but I've got him in a similar ballpark. He's very specific in a way. Like I like watching these guys because it's really clear to see what they do well, what they don't do well, where they fit, and what their role is. I think he's exactly what you'd expect for a 6'3", 240 edge. He is quick. He is bendy. I thought, Brian mentioned some of the moves. I think there are some nice flashes of kind of hand usage. I thought he had a really nice club rip in a number of the games I watched. He's also really good on stunts because I think you see that flexibility and speed. Pursuit speed as well in terms of chasing down plays to the sideline is excellent. But he is smaller. He's not going to fit every scheme. He's not a guy you want playing with his hand in the dirt. He doesn't really convert speed to power. I'm not sure there's like scope for adding a ton more weight to his frame, given he's kind of 6'3". It's going to be a little limited in terms of how much that can improve. And there is a little bit of wasted movement kind of out of his stance that does hinder that initial first step quickness that both Drew and Brian have referred to. So, yeah, he feels like a kind of, if you want a speed rusher in an odd front, like get him on your team kind of early day 3 for me. And he can be a nice rotational pass rusher. You might be able to get like serviceable run play out of him in a specific role, but that's kind of by the by. I think he's first and foremost a quick pass rusher who will excel in I'd love to see him in like a Brian Flores type weird front that will stunt and that will kind of align him up and down. I could see him being the kind of guy who you could use as a spy or an A-gap blitzer, but that's more of a funky role than like a dedicated every down edge.
Okay. Next player, Gabe Jacas from Illinois. Drew, do you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, Gabe Jacas is a really fun conversation to have. He's an athletic freak. Was number 59 on Bruce Feldman's freak list this year. Hit over 20 miles per hour and benched 225 for over 30 reps. So he'll shine at the combine, do all that. He's got a good frame. He's a former wrestling state champion in high school, and that really shows up on his film. He's got excellent hand usage. You can tell that he knows how to fight off people. And I mean, that's one of the things I love to see for defensive linemen is when they have that wrestling background. And you saw it with Mason Graham last year, just that wrestling background to fend off offensive linemen. And I kind of see shades of that with Jacas. He's got good bursts off the line. He can shoot gaps in the run game. Excellent power while rushing the passer. Gets low and can just drive them back into the quarterback. He's got constant leg drive. He's always looking to keep moving. Consistently can separate from tackles if they get their hands on him. As I said, with the wrestling, can swipe him off, can throw him off. He's got the versatility to. I actually liked him back into coverage. I mean, I don't see him every time, but in certain situations, I think he could drop back into coverage. And he's just relentless. He won't give up on a play. I forgot who it was against, but it was a screenplay where he was on the opposite side. And he ran all across the field, probably ran around 30, 40 yards, and made the play. He's just relentless. So he's got all that good going for him. But there's just a major red flag in his game, and that's him against the run. Just to put it lightly, he's just bad against the run. He really struggles to set the edge. It's tough to separate in the run game. He can in the pass game, but he really can't in the run game. He's really bad against the read option. Like, it's play time after time after time against read option. He overcommits and allows the quarterback a free lane to run the ball. Once again, I forget who it was against, but it was 3 or 4 different times where they did the same thing on the read option, and Jacas didn't defend it. And he just can struggle to locate the football. He needs to get eyes on it more. So with all the run game struggles, it's very tough to place him on where you want to go because the pass rush is outstanding, but there are major concerns about the run game. I'm kind of leaning on day 2. I think a team will take him in the second round just because of how good he can be on those third downs, long second downs, stuff like that. But I'll need to see him improve as a run defender before I place him any higher.
Jack.
Yeah, so he was an interesting watch because like I try and go into as many of these guys as I can as blind as possible, like before I watch, so I'm not coming with preconceived notions. But I'll obviously look at their measurables and things like that before I do. So I'm going into this. I'm like, right, a Big Ten edge who's 6'3", 270, like he's going to be like some sawed-off run defender. And then I watched the tape, and the first game I watched was USC. And I was like, okay, he's got like juice. Like I didn't really expect that. And then I'm watching him defend the run. I'm like, what is this? Like USC clearly had made a point of being like, right, we're just going to run, zone read, and just kind of keep. And you can see his head kind of spinning every time. And I think part of it's because he's got a very aggressive play style because he has that kind of relentless motor. He wants to hit guys, but he will just lose contain constantly. And it is to the point where you just don't trust him on early downs, which is really strange because normally the guys you're talking about, like we just did with Hutchins, the guys you're talking about in that conversation are smaller guys who kind of can't hold up. They don't have the anchor strength. They don't have the size. But he's got the size. He's pretty strong. I just think he's over aggressive and runs himself out of place. So in that sense, I think it's maybe more fixable than some of the other guys where we've said that run defense is a concern. I think as a pass rusher, there is quite a lot to like. And that really kind of surprised me, having had no expectations going in. I think his long arm move is really good, despite the fact he's not got great length. I think one of the things his frame does give him is really good natural leverage. So you will constantly see him when he is attacking as a pass rusher. He gets under the pads, and that allows him to walk these guys back into the pocket. I think the pass rush is a little bit overly reliant on the bull rush. And that worries me a little as well with the length being, I think he's got 33-inch arms on the dot. Like, that's fine, but it's not great. And I probably want to see him develop that a bit more. You saw sometimes longer tackles would give him trouble. But yeah, a surprising player. Where do I have him? He ended up kind of higher than I thought he would for me, to be honest. He's edge 12. I think the run defense stuff is coachable, but certainly early on in his career, he's like a pass rushing guy who I'm hoping I can develop into something a bit more.
And Brian, where are you on Gabe Jacas?
Yeah, so agree with some of what you guys said, disagree with some of what you guys said, but so actually I'll just get to it real quick. Start verified 6'3", 279. Like Jack said, 33-inch arms. Interesting. Last summer I had a verified weight. I believe it was like 275, 274, something like that last year. And he does look like, I think he looked a little bit faster last year, a little more explosive. I think he put on a little bit too much weight this offseason. But interesting thing though is he's pretty much a 4-year starter. His freshman year he started most of the year. In the opposite of Anthony Lucas, he looks like what he's listed at. He's a really big dude. And what's it called? Illinois has used him in different. They moved him around a lot, actually, surprisingly. They've had him almost stand up like a 3-4 linebacker and had him in his hand in the dirt like a 4-3 end. They've even had times they used him as like a 5 tech and a 3-4 setup. One thing I do disagree with the guys a little bit with though is I think I see at times him being able to set a good base in the run game. But I do agree he does get washed out sometimes. He does mess up on some of those zone reads and stuff like that. But I think as a general thing, he does generally hold up well in the run game. It's just some stuff he needs to work at. But he does have some pop in his hands. He'll drive back blockers. He has a speed to power move, but it can be a little inconsistent. I think it needs some work. But he drives and continues to work his way into the backfield. At least for his size, his change of direction is pretty darn good. He's got pretty good at using his length also when engaging in the run game. He'll get his space with him and he'll use his arms. Like I said earlier, his long speed is okay. It's not great. I think again, like I said, I think last year was a little bit faster. I think he put on a little bit too much weight. But he is physical and he is a willing run defender. He used an arm over, but again, his timing is off of that. He'll throw it too soon. He'll use a bull rush, but doesn't get a super lot of movement. And I think he should try to when that happens. I think if he can add a counter to that, I think that would help. And also, but I think surprisingly, he also used a head and a bob fake type of thing, which usually don't see a lot of big guys use. Used an outside fake that I think blockers had been on a couple times. I saw him use an outside fake and blockers completely whiffed on him and you bit on that. I think that's something he can incorporate in his pass rush game more. Illinois also has him play a lot of snaps and he looks okay. He doesn't look like he's gets too worn out at the end of games or at the end of long drives or anything like that. So he's got really good endurance, good awareness of being able to find the ball generally, and gives a lot of good effort, strong effort, kind of like what Drew was saying. He'll chase those plays down. But he does get stalemate a little bit more than you would like as a pass rusher. So he does need to develop some more moves and strings and counters and stuff like that. So yeah, I like him. I have a day 2 grade on him. I think, again, needs to improve some things. Again, like you guys said, with some of the run game stuff, I agree. And then his pass rush game needs a little bit more development.
So one interesting fact about Gabe Jacas, he is the same Taekwondo coach as Lawrence Taylor. So we've covered Illinois. We did a couple of game previews. There's a reporter from Champaign, Illinois that joined us. So he's in the locker room and he knows like who all these guys are training with. And that was a little interesting nugget that Tristan shared with us.
Interesting.
That's brilliant.
Okay, so I believe we have 2 more players to go. I am really curious to see where this group has Tyreak Sapp from Florida. Brian, do you want to kick off Tyreak Sapp?
Yeah, sure. So 6 verified, at least I should say, 6'2.5", 274. He's a 3-year starter at Florida. Similar to Jacas. He's really thick. He's got a strong body. He's got a well-developed body, no fat. He's got a really thick lower body, big quads and butt and all that stuff. Strong, sets a wide base. He shows ability to play half man. He has a little bend to him, not a lot. I wouldn't say much bend to him. I'd say average-ish bend. I mean, for his size, it's decent, but average-ish overall. But I noticed this year versus last year, he's tried to bend the corner a little bit more this year, which can be good at least. At least he's showing some different stuff out there. But he's worker. He'll stack and he'll shed the run game. He does look a little high-hipped at times, which does show some stiffness on film. He has some trouble changing directions at times when quarterbacks or running backs change direction to make a move. He kind of struggles and he gets stuck. Explosiveness off the snap is kind of average, but occasionally if he does time up the snap, he'll kind of pop off the line at times when he times it up. Naturally plays with good leverage. He does get a little high cut, kind of high sometimes, but against his height helps him with that. He has a bull rush, but he'll get some movement. Speed to power with a stab, he'll use that. He was a chop on occasion. This past year, he started using a bull rush with a cross chop, which is shows some potential. It could be a good move for him. His rip does look a little bit better this year compared to last year. He does have one counter. He used an arm over as a counter a couple times. It looked pretty good. And then he has an outside fake that shows some potential. It still needs some work though. Speed chop again is another work in progress type thing, and his accuracy is a little bit off on that. He did get beat up by, I noticed on double teams, he really struggled with double teams though, despite being a generally pretty good run defender. Double streams, he had trouble with those, holding up to those. He'll play through the whistle. He'll chase down plays across the field. There are times though when he's playing backside on a run, he'll get a little too aggressive and he'll leave open the gate for running back, and running back will cut back and just blow past him. But he's not really much of a threat for coming off the edge as far as coming around the corner. Florida did use him at times on the inside as like a 3-tech type of thing, but he didn't really do much with it. He got pushed around. He didn't really stay square, and but he can play some 5-tech. And I did notice he's a trash talker on the field. You see him a lot of times getting guys' face trash talking, so kind of like that. But I have a early day 3 grade on him.
Okay. Drew, where are you on Tyreak Sapp right now?
One second. Yeah, the air conditioning's been weird here for some reason, but yeah, I agree with a lot of what Brian said on Tyreak Sapp. He's got a good frame. I mean, I don't think there's an ounce of fat on his body. He is absolutely built, and he'll show that. Like, he doesn't have great statistics. If you look at him in the box score, you won't fall in love with him. But what he does I really like him in the run. There's not a block he'll ever shy away from. He's a big hitter. He's strong. He can anchor down. Not great against double teams, but he can move the pocket. I really like what he does with that. He's pretty versatile. You can play him, despite only being 274. You can play him really anywhere around the offensive line, I think, or the defensive line. But I like what I see there. He's got pretty good quickness too for his size, blend of quickness and strength. But his pass rush is still pretty questionable for me. I'm not fully bought into that yet. I just don't know if I see the plan right now with him fully. He'll try out some different moves from time to time, but I don't think most of them are that effective yet. So I still have a lot to be desired from him in that way. I do think he can grow into it because he does have the athletic tools to be impactful, but I just don't quite see the pass defense yet, or the pass rusher yet. But because of his run game, I probably have a mid-day 3 grade on him. But if he has a good end to the year, I don't know if he has any eligibility left. I don't have it pulled up, but he does not. So, yeah, I think our team's going to buy into him for the run game, but he still leaves some to be desired.
And Jack, what do you have in Tyreak Sapp?
Yeah, so I think by the sounds of it, I'm probably the lowest of us 3 on him. I don't really know kind of what I would want to do with him if I was a team drafting. I think the run defense stuff is good. The issues against double teams does worry me though, for a guy who trades on his ability to to stop the run. I did see flashes where he could like split double teams, but in terms of actually holding up and kind of anchoring, it's not great. Powerful hands, as the guys both mentioned, like the build is great. He has lined up kind of off the edge and as a 4i, but I'm not. My worry is I don't really see get off. I don't see juice. Certainly by edge standards. Like if you want him to actually win on an island versus a tackle, certainly at the NFL level, I don't think he has the speed to kind of threaten the arc, and I don't think he is flexible enough to really work inside counters consistently. I'm not the biggest fan of the bend, so then in my head I'm like, well, maybe he's a kind of odd front defensive end, kind of playing him as a 4i, but then you see reps there where he is kind of facing double teams in the run game from kind of guards, and you're like, I don't think he's going to handle that at the NFL level if that's already an issue in college. So I think his best reps as a pass rusher came when he was playing from a reduced alignment, because you saw, certainly like last year, the LSU game, I seem to recall, there was some really nice quick wins when he was working over guards. I didn't see as much of it this season. But then I'm like, well, is that a kind of early down edge who then kicks inside? But I'm not sure he's like great enough at either that makes me super excited by that. And he's a fifth-year guy who I still think needs quite a lot of development. So the athletic element worries me, I think, by the sounds of it, more than both Brian and Drew. I'd have him kind of late day 3 for me. Probably 7th round, 6th, 7th round.
Okay. And then, do we have one more? No.
Yep.
R. Mason Thomas, last player we're covering today. Jack, you want to kick him off?
Yeah, so very different kind of guy when we were just saying about a guy who can stop the run and who doesn't do much against in the pass game. R. Mason Thomas, so the verified measurables I got is 6'1" and 5'8", 249, 31 and 3/4 inch arms, which is a concern. I think I can't remember where that would rank in terms of kind of recent years, but it's certainly well below average. The pros for me, the first step I think is, I'd probably say, is elite. There was a rep I shared a while ago on Twitter against Will Campbell last year where he just, like, the speed off the line and then the ability to bend is absolutely terrifying when he times it up. I think he's got a really nice chop rip. You see him kind of try and win in different ways. He's flexible. You see the ankle kind of flexion in terms of when he's working as a speed rusher around the arc. There's one of the things that's been, I think, nice on the 2025 tape is I've seen a little bit more in terms of speed to power. So the Auburn game, he was suspended for the first half, but in the second half, there were a couple of moments, especially at the end, when I think he ended the game with a safety by winning with the speed to power, which I didn't really see any of in 2024. So that's been a nice kind of bit of growth, just to give him a bit more variety. That being said, I think in addition to the short arms, I don't see great play strength. The speed to power is there as a pass rusher, but it's like the David Bailey conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, but I think he's several tiers below Bailey as a prospect personally. But where you see flashes of speed to power as a pass rusher, but as a run defender, he just gets washed out all the time. I like the effort, and I do think he's got good natural leverage with that kind of 6'1" and 5'8" frame. So he does hold up well there, or he does try in that aspect, I guess. The thing that for me separates him from a guy like Bailey, who we talked about in terms of being really quick, a good pass rusher, but not very good against the run, is I think Thomas is a little too one-dimensional as a pass rusher. I don't see really detailed counter plans. As much as I said, there's a flash of speed to power. He is a kind of outside track speed guy. So he is, for me, kind of designated pass rusher at the NFL level. I think he can carve out a good career in that role, but I think he's probably part of a rotation in a kind of odd front 3-4 outside linebacker type role.
Okay. Is that day 3 for you then, Jack?
Yes.
Okay. Brian, where are you on R. Mason Thomas?
So Jack already mentions his verified measurables. He also is he's 21 years old, so a little bit younger. At least as far as prospects we're seeing coming out these days with NLI, a lot of guys are 22, 23. Anyway, so I noticed on film his lower half is pretty thin. So even though he's got kind of a smaller frame, he's still almost 250, so he's got good size. But his lower half is a bit on the thin side. I think that's part of the reason why he struggles in the run game. 2-year starter, like Jack said, he's really explosive off the snap, can just fly into the backfield. If he gets a good off the snap, good explosion off the snap, and he can blow past a lot of offensive tackles. He's so fast, so quick. They've even used him in snaps as a like a dog blitzing linebacker. Looked pretty good doing that too, even. So I think at least he offers some versatility, and you can do some different stuff. You can move around. You can use him in those stand-up A-gap blitzes and stuff like that. But yeah, his lack of length, does show up on film at times. He does have trouble separating from blockers. His size as well. His size will show up in film. He'll really get pushed around in the run game. Even tight ends will push him around. There are some flashes here and there, but he'll hold up against a tight end in the run game. But for the most part, he does get pushed around. His bend is solid. I wouldn't say it's elite. I wouldn't say it's super special, but it's pretty solid. It's pretty good. For his size, I would say it's probably a little above average, not like freakish, not like Micah Parsons or anything like that, or Clay Matthews, but it's pretty good. Because I noticed a few times he was trying to bend the edge, and he was trying to, use that bend, and he slipped and lost balance and stuff. So a couple times, it wasn't a lot, but it was a few times. But again, I noticed also he can turn and run in coverage a little bit too. I saw him actually cover in man coverage. He covered I forgot who it was against, but he covered, I think it was a tight end. I think it was from last year's film. But he looked okay doing it. He was able to flip his hips. They were okay. It wasn't like special. He doesn't have super fluid hips, but they looked okay enough to where you can probably drop him into some coverages and stuff. I think he'll be okay. Again, effort's there in all the plays. He plays hard. Like I mentioned earlier, he couldn't close on the running back like a snap, like a flash. He flies across in the backfield and close on the running back and the quarterback. He uses speed and agility to just blow past blockers. You would like to see you'd like to see him use more outside fakes and some counters inside. He almost never goes inside, which again, I think is something that could really, if you want to take his game to a new level, use some outside fakes, counter back inside, stuff like that. I think that could really take his game to a new level. But again, because of his size and length and stuff, I agree with Jack, though. He'll be mostly like a DPR at the next level. But I think teams will still value his ability as a pass rusher and his athleticism stuff. So I think he'll still go probably, depends on if the team falls in love with him, I think. But I think he could go anywhere in late day 2, early day 3.
Okay. Drew, R. Mason Thomas, final word.
Yeah, we all see him pretty similarly. I like his he can win around the edge very well. He's got great speed. Flexibility, I'd say it's good. I wouldn't say it's anything outstanding. He's relentless, doesn't give up on a play. He's constantly driving towards the ball. He's got good hand usage. Brian mentioned his coverage ability. Like, he can do it if a team needs him to. Then I love his natural leverage. He's very small, but he can get low and use that to his advantage. During the run game, there are major concerns, but at least at the collegiate level, he excels at navigating and splitting gaps to penetrate the backfield and make a play. Now, I don't know if that's sustainable at the next level. I doubt it is, but he's shown the ability to do that. He can convert speed to power. I saw that a couple times, and I really liked his burst and acceleration off the line. But the main talking point about him is just going to be the run game. I said about he can get into the backfield, but if a lineman gets his hands on him, he's not doing much that play, which will really limit him to that DPR role. I feel like we've had a similar conversation with a couple of players today, but R. Mason Thomas is kind of the easiest evaluation that he will be a DPR for me. I just don't know with his frame and size. I don't think he can add much more weight. So I just don't know how much better he can get against the run. So that'll limit his upside. but I still really do like a lot of what I see with him as a pass rusher. So I'd agree with I'd say early day 3, we're all around the same kind of range.
Okay, so I believe that concludes this week's group. Right, we've gone all the way around, right? Jack, you had already done. Yeah. Wanted to make sure I didn't exclude anybody. So overall, I think we're, let's say, 5 out of 9 shows into the defensive line class. I think prior to the podcast, I think I emailed out the next 4 weeks players. So for the audience, the players that we're going to cover next week will include Cole Brevard from Texas, Terry Webb from SMU, Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, Malachi Lawrence from UCF, Santana Hopper from Tulane, Mateen Eber-Agba from Wake Forest, Keanu Tanuvasa from BYU, and Grayson Halton from Oklahoma. So those will be the 8 players. But before we depart, Jack, do you want to let everybody know about all of the UK football content you are involved in?
Yeah, thanks. So most of my work is over at the Touchdown, where I head up their kind of draft content. So there'll be scouting notebook from week 11 dropping from me probably tomorrow, and then a kind of prospect watch later in the week. And I'll obviously be on here every Sunday morning talking defensive line.
Awesome. We're very happy to have you, Jack. So thanks for carving out like an hour and 15 minutes every Sunday.
No,
Drew, you're going to be pulling double duty, I think, for a week or two. You want to let everybody know about all of the Saints podcasting and other things that you do.
Yeah, so I'm a sophomore at the University of Kansas. I have a Saints podcast called The Dome Discussions. I am also a writer for a New Orleans Saints site online called Who Dat Dish. You can find me on Twitter at Jerome Collings. Then I'll also be here on Saturday mornings, I believe, and Sunday mornings. So if you're early riser in the weekend, I'll be right here.
Yep. And you forgot the most important thing. You also write for the University of Kansas newspaper.
There we go. Student newspaper at KU. Got that one as well.
Nice.
Brian.
Yeah, you can see my Twitter handle there if you're watching live. If you're not watching on YouTube, it's BMAAFI NFL. And I post clips online on Twitter. I discuss about the draft, mostly on Twitter again. I also have a Substack. Just look up Brian Mavi. I put out a article once a week. Sometimes if I have an random idea, I'll do a second one, but generally once a week. Kind of a stock up, stock down type article. I try not to make it on just, this 1 week this player had a good game, so I'm obviously his stock went up. When that's not how it works. But I try and look at the last couple of weeks ish, 2-3 weeks. If a player been playing well the last 2-3 weeks, I'll mention them. I try not to repeat players, and then I'll also include a little bit of college football talk in there too. What's going on with rankings and playoffs and that type of stuff. So you can find my stuff there. And then every year, I always forget to mention, I write for the Cheesehead TV Draft Guide. If you're a Packers fan, I usually do a positional breakdown, and I'll write up an article as well talking about players that are off the Packers boards because they don't fit their athletic thresholds.
Cool. Well, I want to give a special thank you to a few people. So Sam Teets, you can catch Sam podcasting on Draft Professor Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern. Sam, James Foster, EJ, and Anthony Russo are breaking down the linebacker class. So they have 2 more linebacker shows to go. So Sam also, in his Substack, I believe broke down 50 edge players. I believe he listed his top 50 edges because I was comparing his edge list to the podcast edge list. And the good news is the highest ranked player, Sam had a 6th round grade on somebody that I don't have on the podcast list. So I felt pretty good that we are podcasting on the right player. So Sam, thanks for stopping by. Anthony, you stopped by on Friday twice. You stopped by again today. So good to see you. And David, I saw you. I got to scroll to find you again.
Yeah,
So
Solomon.
David, Philadelphia Eagles reporter. He podcasted with draft professors over the summer as well. So David, thank you for stopping by. For draft professor, the schedule is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. We're here every day. Sunday through Friday, 2 podcasts a day. So we actually have another podcast that is starting in 15 minutes, breaking down some quarterbacks. And then Saturday mornings with Drew and Anthony, breaking down offensive line. So depending upon what position you want to hear about, you can either go to NFL Draft Fanatic and look at the pinned post on Twitter. That pinned post has the schedule. Or you can go subscribe on YouTube and turn on notifications, and then you'll be notified when we go live. And like I said, we are live 13 times a week. So thank you very much for stopping by. For Jack, Brian, Drew, myself, and the 110 people at the Draft Professor, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on our next podcast.